Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Dr. Angela M. Reeves joining us here live today on the podcast and Zoomcast to talk more about her work, as she is the founder and CEO of AMR Educational and Program Consultants, based out of Davison, Michigan, but she's helping people worldwide with everything she does, from life coaching to life skills courses, mental health counseling, staff development, program evaluation, and so much more, even relationship, yes. And she's an author, and she's here with us today. We're excited to have you back. How are you?
I am well, Jill. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. For those new time listeners, tell us a little bit about the work you're doing, please.
Okay, so I'm really focusing on a lot of coaching right now, as well as staff training.
Okay.
And as you said, I am an author, and my book is entitled Learning and Earning in the 21st Century, What You Need to Know and How to Succeed. So I'm very excited about that because it really speaks to a couple of things: partnerships.
Yeah.
And when I say partnerships, I mean community-based organizations at schools and parents. Okay. And so what it does is it provides a nice little wraparound for young people. It's not solely for young people. The current program that we're working with, and we've been working with for several years now, also, when I did the 5th edition, I wish I had a copy of it right now, but I don't. But that edition also satisfies 6 of the major core competencies that employers want. So the local workforce development organization in Indiana said completing this curriculum satisfies their requirements to participate in their paid internships. How about that?
We
Isn't
like
that
that.
nice?
Yes, it is.
It is. It really is. It really is. And so there's a lot of research that went into this 5th edition. So it's just a really, really good piece. One of the things that I often like to talk about, because when we're talking about why we go to school and why we go to training, it is to ensure that we have the skills that employers want.
Yeah.
So the American Managers Association did a survey of its members, and they all agreed that there were 4 competencies.
Really?
Yeah, that employers needed. And they also said 75% said they didn't have anybody on staff who had those competencies. How about that?
I like this. Yes.
So, yeah, so critical thinking and problem solving is one. Multiculturalism, that ability to interact with people from other cultures in a respectful way, right? So that's another one, right?
Yeah.
Creativity and innovation, that ability to see how we can do this thing differently so that we keep current and remain in the mainstream, serving the customers of that particular business or industry. So those are very important things, you know.
Yeah.
Communication was the other thing that they said was absolutely essential. So these are the kinds of things that are wrapped into this curriculum. And that's what makes it so powerful. It really is powerful. And so it is evidence-based. So there's nothing in it that does not support the current research findings, current learning theory. Everything is very current about this curriculum. Took me 2 years to do this revision. Normally, with a revision, you're talking 6 months to a year. But I wanted to make sure that we were absolutely on target. So how does it work? Well, there's a pre-test and then there's a post-test.
Okay.
Okay. And so every chapter, there are 10 chapters. There are 3 areas. Will, which is future oriented, which gets into our attitudes, which gets into our approach
Oh,
to
yeah.
work, which also gets into our beliefs
Yeah.
about what we can do and what we cannot do. And then skill, you've got to know how to learn. If you're not learning today, you cannot keep a job.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
everything, the world is changing so fast. So how to learn? What's your particular learning style?
Mhm.
Can you create an environment
Ooh.
that supports that so that you can remain current? Okay. And then the last part is self-regulation, which really speaks to your self-control and your self-management.
Okay.
Okay, so somebody rubs you the wrong way. Well, you can't very well, go off on them, right? So learning how to manage yourself, learning how to restrain yourself so that you don't create a problem for yourself and or your employer.
Okay.
These are the things that we're really talking about. So 3 chapters in the first 2 competencies and 4 in the last, in the self-regulation. And
Got
that
it.
also gets into things like time management.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. So I mean, I would encourage anyone. We've got testimonials on our website about the effectiveness of this curriculum. Everybody's buzzword is mindset, self-efficacy. I'm not sure everybody understands what those really represent, but we certainly include those concepts in our curriculum as well as many others. So what we do also is we will tailor
Mm-hmm.
a training program
Okay.
specifically for the client, given
Awesome.
their time frame. So we can do that. Okay. And that comes behind me doing programs for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And with different kinds of requirements based upon the funding agency. So, my website, drangela.mreeves.com.
Yeah.
Please check me out. I'd love to help you help your clients or your
Beautiful.
students. Yep.
And I know you wanted to touch upon, you said a little bit about self-care that you kind of want to
Yeah,
finish up on, right? Because last time we discussed that.
we did. And I really did want to circle back on that
Sure.
because I think that there are some things that are very, very important. Like we talked about water as an essential.
Mm-hmm.
In this country, in the United States, 75% of people
Wow.
are chronically dehydrated.
Oh my gosh.
So the rule of thumb is this. A lot of times when we feel hungry, we think we need to eat. But sometimes what our body's telling us is we really need water. Okay? By the time we get thirsty,
Mm-hmm.
the thirst is a symptom of dehydration.
Mm. Got me thinking. My tea. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. So, and we said last week, you're looking at a half an ounce per pound of your weight.
Okay.
Okay. Then the other thing is, and the way you know that if you were really hungry is after you drink the water, are you still hungry? Because a lot of times, again, it's not hunger, it's thirst.
Okay.
But our bodies interpret it as hunger.
Yeah,
30% of Americans are overweight.
that is true.
It is true. And so why is that important? Well, that's important because that makes every organ in our body work harder to keep us going.
Yeah.
And so, everybody's really trying to lose weight and we get this yo-yo effect.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that takes us out of the game
I love that.
because the
Yeah.
body does not like these highs and these lows.
Mm-hmm.
Lose the weight, gain the weight, lose the weight, gain the weight. My finger's going in the wrong direction, but you get okay. 75% of Americans are tired before they even show up to work.
That's interesting.
Isn't
Mm-hmm.
it? Because guess what? We're still not getting enough rest.
Yep.
Okay. And 17% of Americans are anxious. That's a problem.
Sure is.
Okay.
And not getting the proper
7% are
sleep.
depressed. Okay. So how do you know that you need self-care?
Good question.
Well, our body is always going to tell us what we need if we listen to it. Okay. So you have a harder time thinking. That's an indication you need self-care. You're sick more often. That's an indication you need
So true.
self-care. Your quality of work suffers.
Mm-hmm.
Another indicator. You feel overwhelmed. Okay.
So
You
true.
forget what you're about to say.
Mm-hmm.
You miss deadlines. You isolate yourself. You snap at folks. You feel cranky or just off.
Okay.
Simple tasks seem to take a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
You forget little things like, returning a library book.
True.
You're dragging yourself through the day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can go on and on and on.
I know. A lot of us do that for sure.
We do. And so these are indicators that we need to give our bodies more attention.
Okay.
Okay. So listening to our bodies is absolutely critical to us maintaining a thriving and fully functioning existence. Okay, does that help make you sense?
Yep.
Okay, so we already know sleep is essential.
Sure.
Eating right.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Some people say we need to move away from the 3 meals a day and really focus on having 6 small meals a day. And of course, what does that do? That helps the body digest it a lot easier, right?
For sure.
Exercising. And the wonderful thing about exercising is we release those wonderful brain chemicals of endorphins and serotonin. Yeah, which is wonderful because those are the happiness chemicals. There's 2 of them, happiness chemicals. Getting outside, right? Getting outside also releases serotonin, which is the mood stabilizer, and dopamine, which is our feel good about, yes, I did what I said I was going to do. It's the reward chemical, right? Learning something new, again, that stimulates the production of dopamine, telling us, look what I did, look what I did. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Yeah. Okay, I hope that's helpful. Relaxing and de-stressing, working on your relationships, being more mindful. And let's talk a little bit about meditation. A 5-minute meditation, which simply means you're closing your eyes, you're focusing on your breath. You're just being very, very present, right? And the only thing you are aware of is that breath going in and going out. 5 minutes can be a real game changer for you. It's really helpful, I think. Reflection is also another thing that is incredibly helpful. Okay. Mini vacations, right? You may not be able to take a 4-day trip to Bahamas, right? Or one of the other Caribbean islands, but you can do a little staycation. And what I mean by staycation is you basically unplug.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're at home and you're doing only the things that bring you joy. So that might be watching a lot of movies, that might be cooking popping some popcorn. That can be any number of things, fixing a favorite meal for yourself. You're just pampering yourself. And if your family, is around, they get that too, right? So they're learning how to pamper themselves while you are pampering yourself. It's so important because we live what we learn. Okay. So these are some things that you can do to really create generational changes. Does that make sense to you, I hope?
Sure does. I hope it making sense to you all, yes.
Okay, so self-care is never, ever, ever a selfish act.
Yep.
It is simply good, and it's simply good stewardship of the only gift I have.
Yep.
Okay, and the gift that I have is me, right? And also gives me the opportunity to serve others. When I'm focused on me, that allows me to be fulfilled and serve others.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Whatever that gift is, I was put on earth to offer others. I get to do that, right? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I really hope that makes sense. Okay, so I think it's just really, really important that we pay attention to these things so that we can go ahead and live the life that we are destined to live. That's, I think, an important piece. I think I'd like to also talk a little bit about coaching, because we talked last time about the foundational pillars, what I call pillars, of confidentiality, unconditional acceptance, all of those things. And coaching embraces all of those concepts as well. And it also allows you to really focus in on a specific goal, something you're trying to achieve.
Yep.
Okay. That's what coaching is all about. Counseling can be the same thing, right? You have goals that you want to meet. Coaching says, help me get to this point in life. And so coaching is more like a guide, right?
Yep.
And it's also some teaching, because maybe you don't have some of the skills that you need in order to make this thing you have in your head
So
a
true.
reality.
Mm.
Is that making some sense?
It sure does. And I just want to remind everyone how we contact you as we're continuing our show. Again, Dr. Angela mreeves.com, Dr. Angela M. Reeves, spelled REEVES.com, as we continue the conversation.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Yep. Always.
So, it's all about helping you be more and give you the tools. And I always like to talk about tools and skills, right? Because if we knew what to do, we would be doing it, right? There's just no question about that. We would be doing it if we knew what to do. So coaching allows you to delve deep into yourself and bring out what you need to do to create this vision that you have for yourself, right? So sometimes we talk about executive coaching, right? Sometimes we talk about personal coaching, dealing with relationships. Does that make sense? I hope that, yeah. So I'm saying all of that to say that it's very, very important. There are very few people who would not benefit from coaching. Very few people. So it's another powerful tool that you can put into your toolkit. And coaching often is time limited. Often people are in therapy for years, right? Not so with coaching, right? Therapies can also have goals. And I personally like goals when I'm working with my clients, right? Whether that's for therapy or for coaching. Because what that does is it allows us to structure what we're doing together.
Mm-hmm.
And it also allows us to see how close we are to hitting that mark. And then when you hit it, right?
So true.
Yeah. And so then you move on, because that work is done at that point. Now, you might want to come back 2 years, 3 years, a year, whatever, because you want to work on something else. Or you got a crisis in your life, or a pending crisis in your life, so that you can go ahead and, again, come to work with a coach or a therapist, depending on the severity, right? To help you move through the crises and maintain your sense of self and the goals that you have for yourself. I think I mentioned the first time that a lot of people, our very first podcast, Jill, a lot of people have skills, but they don't know how to use them because they've not been equipped.
Okay.
Right? It's just like an argument. Arguments don't have to be demeaning. They often are, but they don't have to be. And so there is a way to discuss a potential conflict in a way that is respectful, not only to yourself, but also to this other person. That might be your partner, that might be a sibling, that might be a parent, that might be a coworker. There are ways that you can talk to one another that are very affirming, right? So that you resolve that conflict and you move forward. As one person told me years ago, I'll never forget it. She said, no, the only way you can argue is by arguing and yelling and screaming and using profanity. She didn't say profanity, but that's what she meant, right? Because why? That's all she'd ever seen.
It's so true.
It is. But you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a demeaning conversation, either for yourself or someone else.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but if you don't know how to do it, how can you do it? You can't. You can't operate from knowledge you don't have. So that gaining knowledge is always a critical part of our growth and our development. Right? So anyway, those were the things that I really wanted to touch on today.
Well, I'm glad we did. Thank you.
I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's helpful for those who are listening and those who may be watching. And it's certainly been my pleasure to be with you, Jill.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic day. Pleasure having you here, and looking forward to the next time we connect again, Dr. Angela. Thank you so much. That's drangelareeves.com. Thank you for your time today.
Dr. Angela M. Reeves.
Yes, sorry about that. Dr. Angela M. Reeves. You got it. Thank you again. Google her name. You'll find her everywhere, and there's so much she can really help you with.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.